My mother-in-law stood in the middle of our Christmas party, holding up her phone like a weapon pointed directly at my heart. The living room, packed with 30 family members just seconds ago, buzzing with holiday cheer, fell completely silent. Even the Christmas music seemed to fade into the background. "I have proof she's been poisoning my son against us," Nadine announced, her voice cutting through the air like shattered glass. "This woman, this manipulator you all think is so sweet and innocent, has been destroying our family from the inside." Every single face in that room turned to stare at me. I felt their eyes like physical weight pressing down on my shoulders. Aunt Martha's mouth hung open, still holding a half-eaten cookie. Derek's brother James had his phone out, already recording. The cousins from Portland whispered to each other behind their hands. My husband Derek stood by the fireplace, his face flushed red with what I immediately recognized as shame. Not anger at his mother, not protective fury for his wife, but shame. His shoulders hunched forward like he wanted to disappear into the floor. He couldn't even look at me. "I have recordings of her lies," Nadine continued, waving her phone above her head so everyone could see it. 3 months of evidence. Every cruel word she's said about this family, every time she's told Derek not to visit us, every manipulation designed to turn my son into a stranger. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I thought everyone must be able to hear it. My mouth went completely dry. I wanted to defend myself, to scream that she was lying, but my voice had abandoned me entirely. All I could do was stand there, frozen like a deer in headlights, while my mother-in-law prepared to destroy my life in front of everyone who mattered to us. That's when I heard the small voice from the staircase, clear as a bell and steady as a rock. "Grandma Nadine, should I play the videos of you and that man from the hotel?" My 7-year-old daughter, Penny, stood halfway down the stairs, her pink Christmas dress pristine, her dark brown hair in the braids I'd done that morning. She held her iPad in both hands, the screen glowing against her small face. She looked so calm, so composed, like she was asking if anyone wanted more cookies instead of dropping a bomb that would explode our entire family gathering. The room didn't just go quiet this time. It froze completely. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Even the twinkling lights on our 8-foot Douglas fir seemed to pause their blinking. Nadine's face transformed from triumphant prosecutor to cornered animal in less than a second. The phone in her raised hand started trembling. Her perfectly applied red lipstick suddenly looked garish against her pale skin. "What videos?" Gerald, my father-in-law, spoke for the first time all evening. He'd been sitting in his usual corner chair, nursing his 3rd beer and watching football highlights on his phone. Now he stood up slowly, his weathered contractor's hands clenched at his sides. "Nadine, what is she talking about?" Penny descended 2 more steps, her small fingers already swiping across the iPad screen. "The ones from Tuesday afternoons when Mommy's at work. You know, when you use our computer for your special video calls. My tutoring app records everything in the room. I have 17 videos, Grandma. Should I start with the one from last week where you called Grandpa Gerald a useless fool, or the one where you and Mr. Garrison were kissing?" The champagne glass in Cousin Rebecca's hand hit the floor and shattered into 1,000 pieces. Nobody moved to clean it up. My character introduction moment had arrived, though not the way anyone expected. I'm Celeste, 34 years old, an elementary school teacher who thought her biggest challenge this Christmas would be keeping the ham from drying out. My husband Derek, 36, an accountant who analyzes numbers all day, but somehow couldn't calculate that his mother's hatred for me didn't add up. Our daughter Penny, 7 years old, who'd been so quiet all evening, we'd assumed she was overwhelmed by the crowd. My mother-in-law, Nadine, 62, retired bank manager who'd spent her career calculating interest, but apparently forgot that secrets gain compound interest, too. And Gerald, 64, a man who'd built houses for 40 years but never noticed his own home was crumbling from the inside. This is the story of how our perfect Christmas party became ground zero for the complete destruction of every lie our family had been living. And it all started with a 7-year-old who understood technology better than any of us realized, and who loved her mother enough to press record at exactly the right moments. The morning of Christmas Eve started with the kind of perfect winter light that made our kitchen glow, like something from a magazine. Fresh snow had fallen overnight, covering our Denver suburb in a pristine white blanket that made everything look clean and new. I stood at our marble kitchen island, Penny beside me on her little step stool, both of us covered in flower and holiday spirit. "Mommy, this snowman needs a bigger smile," Penny said, carefully squeezing orange icing onto a sugar cookie. Her concentration face, tongue slightly out, eyebrows furrowed, made my heart squeeze with love. "Make him as happy as you want, sweetheart. It's Christmas Eve. Everyone should be smiling today." Derek walked through the kitchen door, his hair sticking up in 12 directions, covered in foam-packing peanuts that clung to his flannel pajama pants. "That dollhouse has more pieces than my entire accounting software system," he announced, but his grin told me he'd loved every minute of assembling it. "She's going to lose her mind tomorrow morning when she sees it." He wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder to watch Penny work. This was my favorite Derek. Relaxed weekend version who wasn't stress-eating antacids and checking his phone every 30 seconds for work emails. For just these few days around Christmas, I got to have my actual husband back instead of the wound-up stranger his job kept creating. "Your mom texted," he said into my ear, and I felt my shoulders tense immediately. "They want to come early to help set up." "How early?" I kept my voice light, not wanting Penny to pick up on my anxiety. "Noon instead of 5. She says she wants to help with the cooking." Help? That was rich. Nadine's version of helping involved taking over completely while delivering a running commentary on everything I was doing wrong. Last Thanksgiving, she'd actually brought her own turkey because she didn't trust me to cook it properly. The fact that everyone preferred my turkey to her dry disaster just made things worse. "That's fine," I lied, already mentally reorganizing my entire cooking schedule. 5 extra hours of Nadine meant 5 extra hours of criticism, judgment, and those special little comments designed to cut deep while sounding helpful to anyone listening. "Mommy, why does Grandma Nadine always look at you like you smell bad?" Penny asked, suddenly, her innocent question hitting closer to home than she could possibly know. Derek stiffened behind me, but I just laughed. "Some people just have resting mean face, sweetheart. Like how Mr. Henderson next door always looks grumpy but gives out the best Halloween candy." "But Mr. Henderson smiles sometimes. Grandma Nadine only smiles when she's talking about other people's problems." Out of the mouths of babes. Derek kissed my temple and extracted himself to pour coffee, clearly not wanting to navigate this particular conversation. That was our pattern. Nadine would hurt me. I'd absorb it. Derek would pretend not to notice, and we'd all continue the charade that we were one big, happy family. 9 years we'd been married, 12 years together total. I'd met Derek at a teaching conference where he was presenting about financial literacy for kids. He'd been nervous, dropping his notes twice, and I'd found his awkwardness endearing after dating a string of overly confident men who turned out to be disappointments. Derek was steady, reliable, kind. Everything I wanted in a partner. Everything except his mother. From our first meeting, Nadine had made her position clear. I wasn't good enough, not pretty enough, not successful enough, not connected enough. The Whitfield girl, whoever she was, had become this mythical, perfect woman Derek should have married instead. A surgeon now, according to Nadine's latest update. Previous versions had her as a federal judge, a CEO, and once, mysteriously, a Nobel Prize nominee. "She just wants the best for me," Derek would say whenever I tried to talk about it. "You know how mothers are." But I didn't know how mothers were. Not really. My own mother had died when I was 15, cancer taking her before she could teach me how to navigate difficult mother-in-law relationships or protect myself from women who smiled while sharpening their knives. My dad, remarried now and living in Seattle, always said I was too sensitive, that I needed to grow a thicker skin. Gerald, my father-in-law, was the opposite of his wife. Where she was sharp edges and calculated strikes, he was soft corners and gentle redirections. He'd spent 40 years building custom homes for Denver's wealthy families, creating beautiful spaces while his own home grew colder by the year. I'd seen him flinch at Nadine's words just like I did, but he'd learned to hide it better, usually behind a beer bottle in the Broncos game. Standing in my kitchen that morning, watching Penny create her cookie masterpiece while Derek hummed Christmas carols off-key, I had no idea that in just a few hours every careful balance we'd constructed would come crashing down. I thought I was preparing for another uncomfortable family gathering where I'd smile through the insults and pour generous glasses of wine. Instead, I was about to host the complete demolition of the lies that had held the Morrison family together for decades. Nadine arrived at exactly 11:45 a.m., 15 minutes early because being on time meant she couldn't make an entrance. She swept into my house wearing a red cashmere coat that probably cost more than my monthly salary, carrying 4 shopping bags of supplies and trailing Gerald behind her like a reluctant shadow. "Celeste, dear, the walkway needs salting," she announced instead of hello. "Someone could slip and sue you. Gerald, don't just stand there. Help me with these bags. The good china I brought needs to be hand-washed before we use it." "We have china, Nadine," I said, taking one of her bags. "The set you and Gerald gave us for our wedding." "Oh, that," she waved dismissively. "That was fine for everyday use, but this is Christmas. We need something more presentable. The Richardsons are coming, aren't they?" Patricia Richardson would notice immediately if we served on inferior dishes. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. Patricia Richardson was my friend, a fellow teacher who couldn't have cared less about china patterns if her life depended on it. But in Nadine's world, everyone was constantly judging everyone else, keeping score in some elaborate social competition that existed only in her mind. Derek appeared long enough to kiss his mother's cheek, then immediately announced he and Gerald needed to hang outdoor lights. "Very important, can't wait, lots to do," he said, practically dragging his father outside. Gerald shot me an apologetic look as they escaped, leaving me alone with my predator. Nadine commandeered my kitchen like a general taking territory. She unpacked her bags with surgical precision, serving platters, specialty utensils, tablecloths, napkin rings, and even a centerpiece she'd apparently decided was better than the one I'd spent 3 hours creating yesterday. "Now," she said, pulling out her phone, "let me just make a quick voice memo about the setup." She pressed record and set it on the counter. Testing, testing. Perfect. "Are you recording our conversation?" I asked, watching her position the phone strategically between us. "Don't be paranoid, Celeste. It's for my grocery list. I've been using this productivity method from a best-selling business book. You probably haven't heard of it. It's quite sophisticated." Everything with Nadine came with a barb. Every statement had a stinger hidden in its tail. I turned back to my ham glaze, stirring harder than necessary. "That needs more brown sugar," she said, peering over my shoulder. "And real butter, not that margarine you probably use. Derek's been looking thin lately. Are you feeding him properly?" "He's actually at his healthiest weight in years. His doctor said his cholesterol is perfect." "Doctors," she sniffed. "They don't understand that men need substance. The Whitfield girl, did I mention she's a surgeon now? She posted the most wonderful holiday feast on Facebook. Perhaps I should show you for inspiration." The next 3 hours were death by 1,000 cuts. She criticized my table settings, rearranged them, then criticized her own arrangement, but somehow made it my fault. She found dust on a baseboard in the dining room and made a big show of cleaning it herself. She questioned why Penny only had one formal dress and suggested I was depriving my child of proper clothing. Around 3 p.m., Penny came downstairs carrying her iPad, her face bright with excitement. "Grandma, want to see my dance recital video? I got a solo part." "Not now, Penelope." Nadine didn't even look up from where she was reorganizing my spice cabinet. "Grandma's busy fixing Mommy's mistakes." The look of hurt that flashed across Penny's face broke something inside me. I could take Nadine's abuse, had been taking it for years, but watching her dismiss my daughter's joy was too much. "Nadine, she's been practicing for weeks. The least you could do is watch 30 seconds of video." She turned slowly, her eyes glittering with something dark and triumphant. "The least I could do?" Interesting choice of words, Celeste. You want to talk about the least someone could do? "What are you talking about?" She picked up her phone, and I noticed she'd been recording for the past 3 hours. "I've been documenting everything. Every time you've turned Derek against us, every manipulation, every lie you've told to keep us from our son and granddaughter." "What lies? What are you talking about?" "Sunday dinners, Celeste. All those times you told Derek we couldn't come. All those occasions you claimed I criticized your parenting when I was only offering helpful suggestions. The names you said I called you when no one else was listening. My mouth fell open. But those things actually happened. You did criticize my parenting. You did call me names. You called me a gold digger just last month. Did I? Or is that what you wanted Derek to believe? You see, I've been recording our interactions for 3 months, and tonight, when everyone arrives, they're going to hear exactly what kind of woman you really are. How you've twisted every innocent comment into an attack. How you've painted me as a monster to my own son. The room spun. She'd been planning this for 3 months. Every interaction, every conversation had been a setup. She'd been building a case against me like she was back at the bank, preparing to deny someone's loan application. "You're insane," I whispered. "Am I? Or am I a mother protecting her son from a manipulative woman who was never good enough for him?" She smiled, and it was the smile of someone who'd already won. 30 people will be here in 2 hours, Celeste. 30 witnesses to hear the truth about you. By 5 p.m., our house had transformed into the perfect Christmas gathering. Guests arrived in waves, stomping snow off their boots, filling our home with laughter and the rustle of gift bags. Derek's sister, Trina, brought her famous spinach dip. His brother, James, arrived with his new girlfriend, who looked terrified to be meeting the family. Cousins from Portland, aunts and uncles from Boulder, family friends we'd known for years. 30 people packed into our living room and kitchen, wine flowing, children running between adults' legs. I moved through the crowd like a ghost, refilling drinks and refreshing appetizer plates while my mind raced. Nadine held court near the fireplace, charming everyone with stories about her volunteer work at the library. No one would have guessed she'd threatened to destroy me just 2 hours earlier. Derek stayed busy playing host, either oblivious to the tension or deliberately avoiding it. At 6:15, just as Uncle Robert was starting his annual story about the Christmas blizzard of '98, Nadine stood up and clinked her wine glass with a spoon. The cheerful chatter died immediately. "Everyone, I need your attention!" Her voice carried the authority of someone who'd run board meetings for decades. "I have something important to share about our family." My stomach plummeted. I grabbed the back of a chair to steady myself. Derek emerged from the kitchen carrying a cheese plate, his face confused, but not yet alarmed. "For the past several months," Nadine continued, her voice heavy with practiced sorrow, "I've watched my beloved son drift away from his family. Phone calls go unreturned. Sunday dinner invitations are declined. Penny barely knows her grandparents." Sympathetic murmurs rippled through the room. Aunt Martha put her hand over her heart. Trina looked between Derek and me with growing concern. As a mother, I couldn't stand by and watch our family disintegrate without understanding why. Nadine pulled out her phone, holding it up like evidence in a courtroom. So I investigated, and what I discovered breaks my heart. "Mom, what are you doing?" Derek's voice cracked like a teenager's. "I'm saving our family." She turned to address the room again. "Celeste has been systematically poisoning Derek against us. I have recordings of her lies, her manipulations, her cruel words about this family. 3 months of documented evidence." Gasps echoed through the room. Cousin Roger actually pulled out his phone to record. James's girlfriend stepped backward like she wanted to bolt for the door. I saw Patricia Richardson, my supposed friend, lean forward with unmistakable interest. "That's insane." I finally found my voice. "Nadine, you can't just—" "Can I? Let's let everyone hear for themselves." She pressed play on her phone with theatrical flair. But instead of my voice, we all heard hers. "That pathetic little teacher thinks she's won, but I'll show everyone what she really is. I've been recording our conversations for months, editing them perfectly. By Christmas, Derek will see her for the manipulator she is, and I'll finally be rid of her." The phone slipped from Nadine's fingers. She caught it, frantically pressing buttons. This is the wrong file." "Mom?" Derek stepped forward, the cheese plate forgotten on a side table. "What was that?" "It's nothing. A misunderstanding. I was practicing a scene from my book club's play." That's when Penny walked into the room. My 7-year-old daughter moved with the quiet confidence of someone who'd been waiting for exactly this moment. She wore her Christmas dress, the one Nadine had criticized earlier, and carried her iPad in both hands like a shield. "Grandma Nadine," she said, her young voice cutting through the chaos with surgical precision. "Should I play the videos from last Tuesday? The ones with Mr. Garrison from your book club?" The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the gas fireplace hissing. Nadine's face went from red to white so fast I thought she might faint. Gerald, who'd been nursing his beer in the corner, stood up slowly, his weathered hands trembling. "What videos, sweetheart?" I asked, genuinely confused. My daughter had been upstairs during Nadine's visits, or so I'd thought. Penny looked at me with those big brown eyes that held more intelligence than I'd given her credit for. "When Grandma comes over and you're at work, she uses our computer for her video calls. She thinks I'm always at school, but sometimes I have early release for teacher planning days. I do my virtual tutoring in the office." "Penny, no!" Nadine lunged forward, but Derek stepped between them, his face a mask of growing understanding. "Let her talk, Mom." "My tutor showed me how to record my sessions so I could practice my reading," Penny continued, her voice steady. "But the camera records everything in the room. I have 17 videos of Grandma's calls. Some are with Mr. Garrison, some are with other people. She says lots of interesting things when she thinks nobody's listening." Nadine's carefully constructed world was crumbling in real time, and everyone in that room could see it happening. The hunter had become the hunted, and the weapon she'd forged to destroy me had somehow transformed into the sword that would cut her down instead. "Play it," Derek said quietly, his accountant's mind already calculating the implications of what his 7-year-old daughter had just revealed. Penny tapped her iPad screen with the practiced ease of a generation born into technology. The 65-inch TV above our fireplace, still connected from her earlier dance video practice, flickered to life. The image was crystal clear. Our home office, Nadine sitting at my desk, her face glowing from the computer screen's light. But she wasn't alone in the frame. Through the computer screen's reflection in the window behind her, we could see another face. Trevor Garrison, Gerald's best friend for 30 years, his golf buddy, the man who'd been best man at their wedding. "I can't keep doing this, Trevor," Video Nadine said, reaching toward the screen like she was touching his face. "Sneaking around like teenagers, lying to Gerald every Tuesday and Thursday. But when you look at me like that, I forget all my promises to end this." The real Nadine made a strangled sound and tried to grab the iPad, but Derek physically blocked her. "Don't you dare," he said, his voice cold as Denver December. "Then leave him." Trevor's voice responded through the TV speakers, warm and intimate in a way that made everyone uncomfortable. "We've been carrying on for 2 years, Nadine. I'm tired of pretending to be his friend while I'm in love with his wife." Gerald's beer bottle slipped from his hand, shattering on our hardwood floor. Nobody moved to clean it up. His face had gone gray, aging 10 years in 10 seconds. "After Christmas," Video Nadine promised, her voice sultry in a way none of us had ever heard. "I'll destroy Celeste at the party. Derek will side with me against her, the family will rally around me, Gerald will be distracted by the drama. Then I'll file for divorce claiming emotional distress from my son's toxic wife. I'll get the house, half his retirement, and we can finally be together." "You calculating witch?" Trevor laughed in the video. "This is why I love you. You think of everything." "Not everything," Penny said quietly, swiping to another video. "This one's from November." The next clip showed Nadine alone, on her phone, pacing our office like a caged animal. "I've been editing the recordings perfectly," she said to whoever was on the other end, taking Celeste's words, cutting them up, rearranging them. "That software you recommended is amazing. I can make her say anything I want. Derek's been so stressed with tax season that he'll believe whatever I show him." She laughed, and it was an ugly sound. "That little nobody teacher won't know what hit her. She thinks she won because she married my son, but I've been playing the long game. 2 birds with 1 stone. Get rid of the trash Derek married and get rid of the useless fool I married." "Mom!" Trina's voice cracked with horror. "You called Dad useless?" "This is doctored," Nadine shrieked. "Celeste must have coached her, paid someone to fake these videos." Penny swiped again. Another video filled the screen. This time, Nadine was with a younger man none of us recognized. "The private investigator you hired was worth every penny," the man said. "I've been following Celeste for 8 weeks. She's boring as dirt. School, home, grocery store, yoga twice a week. No affairs, no drugs, nothing. She doesn't even have a speeding ticket. Then we make something up, Video Nadine replied. Plant something in her car. Create a scandal at her school. I don't care what it takes. That woman stole my son. She didn't steal him, Nadine. You pushed him away with your constant criticism. Don't you start with me too, Marcus. I'm paying you to destroy her, not psychoanalyze me. Derek moved toward his mother slowly, like approaching a wild animal. You hired a private investigator to follow my wife? You tried to plant evidence? This one's my favorite, Penny announced, swiping to a new video dated just last week. Listen to what Grandma says about everyone here. Video Nadine was on the phone again, drinking wine in our office. Patricia Richardson is getting fat, probably comfort eating because her husband's obviously gay. Trina married beneath her. That contractor husband of hers is dumb as a post. James will never amount to anything, just like his father. And don't get me started on the Portland cousins. White trash with money, all of them. The room erupted. Patricia Richardson dropped her wine glass. Trina's husband, Tom, the successful contractor who'd renovated half of Denver's historic homes, clenched his fists. The Portland cousins started shouting. James looked like he'd been slapped. And here's today, Penny said, playing one final video from just hours ago, when she was setting up the kitchen. Video Nadine held her phone, talking to someone on speaker. Tonight's the night. I've got 30 witnesses about to hear Celeste's edited voice saying horrible things about them all. By tomorrow, she'll be the family pariah. Derek will finally see what a mistake he made. Maybe he'll even reach out to the Whitfield girl. I heard she's recently divorced. The TV went dark. In the silence that followed, we could hear snow falling outside, the soft tick of our grandfather clock, and Nadine's ragged breathing. 17 videos, Gerald said quietly, his voice hollow. 17 videos of my wife destroying our family while sleeping with my best friend. Gerald, please, Nadine whispered, but there was no fight left in her voice. Get out, he said. Get out of this house, get out of our lives, and don't ever come back. The party ended within 20 minutes of Penny's revelation. Nadine left with Trina, who couldn't stop crying about her mother calling her husband stupid. The Portland cousins departed without saying goodbye to anyone. Patricia Richardson hugged me tight and whispered, I'm so sorry you dealt with this alone for so long, before gathering her family and leaving. One by one, our guests filed out into the snowy night, carrying the shattered pieces of what they thought they knew about the Morrison family. Gerald stayed. He sat in our kitchen while Derek poured him whiskey instead of beer, and Penny curled up in his lap like she'd done as a toddler. How did I miss it? Gerald asked no one in particular. 42 years of marriage, and I didn't see any of it. She was very careful, Grandpa, Penny said softly. She only made her mean calls when you were at work or in your workshop. I have videos from 2 years ago. 2 years, Gerald repeated, his voice breaking. My granddaughter knew my wife was a monster before I did. The truth about Nadine unraveled quickly after that night. Trevor Garrison's wife, Michelle, had somehow received all 17 videos in an email from Penny's iPad. Turns out, when Penny tried to save them to show me later, she'd accidentally hit Share with Contacts instead of Save to Files. Her 7-year-old finger slip had destroyed 2 marriages, but saved countless people from further manipulation. The private investigator Nadine hired, Marcus Chen, actually reached out to me a week later. He wanted to apologize and return Nadine's money. I told her there was nothing to find because you're exactly who you appear to be, he said. A good teacher, a loving mother, a faithful wife. She didn't want to hear it. She kept insisting I wasn't looking hard enough. Derek took the hardest hit. He started therapy immediately, needing to process not just his mother's betrayal, but his own complicity in letting her abuse me for years. Every time you tried to tell me, he said one night in February, I dismissed it. I said you were being too sensitive. I chose her over you, again and again. You chose peace, I corrected. You thought you were keeping the family together. No, I was a coward. I saw how she treated you and I let it happen because confronting her was harder than asking you to endure it. His therapist helped him recognize patterns going back to childhood. Nadine had been editing reality long before she learned to edit videos. She'd gaslight Gerald about expenses while hiding shopping bags. She'd tell young Derek that his friends said mean things about him, isolating him so he'd depend only on her. She'd created a world where she was always the victim and everyone else was the villain. Gerald filed for divorce in January. Nadine fought it initially, trying to claim emotional abuse, but Penny's videos made that impossible. The court doesn't look kindly on documented adultery and conspiracy to frame someone. Nadine ended up with far less than she'd planned in her scheme with Trevor. Poetic. Justice, Derek called it. She moved to Florida to live with her sister, who apparently was the only family member still speaking to her. She sent Derek emails for months, alternating between blaming me for ruining her life and begging him to forgive her. We had to get a restraining order when she showed up at Penny's school in March, trying to convince our daughter that I'd brainwashed her. The most surprising aftermath came from Penny herself. Our quiet, observant daughter had been watching her grandmother's behavior for years, documenting it without really understanding why. "She was mean to you, Mommy," she explained to her therapist. "I wanted to help but didn't know how. Then when I saw her recording you, I knew she was planning something bad." Her therapist was amazed. Most 7-year-olds don't have that level of emotional intelligence or strategic thinking. She protected her family with remarkable sophistication. Gerald became a different man after the divorce. The guilt and stress that had weighed him down for decades lifted. He started dating Eleanor, a widow from his grief support group who actually enjoyed his company and laughed at his dad jokes. They came for Sunday dinners, and Eleanor would help cook while telling stories about her own horrible former mother-in-law, making us all laugh until our sides hurt. "You know what I learned?" Gerald told me on Christmas Eve the following year, exactly 12 months after the explosion. "Sometimes the person trying to destroy your family isn't an outsider. Sometimes they're sitting at your dinner table, sleeping in your bed, claiming to love you while sharpening their knife." Derek and I renewed our vows that spring. Not a big ceremony, just us, Penny, Gerald, Eleanor, and a few close friends in our backyard. No edited versions, no manipulated reality, just truth, messy and beautiful and real. The last time I heard about Nadine, she'd started a YouTube channel about surviving narcissistic daughter-in-laws. It had 12 subscribers. Meanwhile, Penny started her own channel about kids dealing with toxic grandparents. She has thousands of followers and uses her experience to help other children recognize manipulation and protect themselves. Some people create their own loneliness by pushing everyone away with lies and manipulation. Others, like my daughter, create their own strength by standing up for truth, even when their hands shake holding the iPad. That Christmas, Nadine thought she'd destroy me with edited recordings and manufactured evidence. Instead, a 7-year-old with an iPad and perfect timing revealed that the real poison in our family had been there all along, wearing pearls and serving judgment with every meal. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear that standing up to toxic family members is possible. Have you ever dealt with a manipulative family member who tried to destroy your relationships? Share your experience in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more true stories about families finding strength in truth and children who save the day in unexpected ways. Remember, sometimes the youngest voice in the room speaks the loudest truth.